G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to show you guys how to do the banded ankle stretch. Now I've taken the time to secure a band to a park bench here, so it's a little bit out of shot there, but the important thing about this ankle stretch, it is easily one of, if not the best, most effective and fastest acting exercises to mobilize a stiff ankle that I've ever seen. As I said, it's fast acting, it's very easy to do. All you basically need is a power band, and I'll leave a link in the description so that you know where to pick one up, or at least see what they look like. They're about 20-25 bucks on Amazon or any good sporting store. But essentially the way to do this exercise is very, very simple. The idea why we do this exercise and the reason why it's so good is that it attacks the deep joint capsule stiffness. Now what we tend to see a lot in modern living is that capsular stiffness often gets neglected. We're very good at stretching muscles, stretching calf muscles and all those sorts of things around the ankle, but we don't often have an exercise that's very specifically targeting that deep joint capsular stiffness. So it's really important that this exercise is done because it's, as I said, it's such a profound exercise that you'll see hopefully when you do this in a second. So just a quick aside on this, basically, the reason why we need to do this and the reason why joint capsules, particularly ankle joint capsules, get stiff is generally for two main reasons. Modern shoes and sitting. Modern shoes basically have a heel, and any heeled shoe, any shoe that you have that has a heel on it, is the size of that heel is the exact amount of ankle range you don't get a chance to use during the entire time that you're in that shoe. So if you're in that shoe for a lot over a long period of time, we can often lose that normal ankle mobility really quickly. Thongs and flip-flops, depending on where you're from, are another one. They tend to short circuit that windlass effect, that arch mechanism that often asks the ankle to get stiff as well. So again, if you're doing this stretch and you're putting someone straight back into heeled shoes, or you're getting straight back into heeled shoes, or back into thongs and flip-flops, then you might find you'll have to keep doing this ankle stretch because you're not going to be solving the underlying problem. The second reason that I mentioned, obviously, when we tend to sit, obviously, we're stuck at that sort of 90 degree position. That ankle basically is stuck in the same shape for hours on end. Same idea, we don't necessarily express that deeper range, so we tend to lose it over time. So this particular exercise, this banded ankle stretch, is vital because it goes after some of that deep restriction that regular muscular stretching just doesn't address. So the way to do this, and hopefully you can see this, is you basically want to put the band just above the ankle bone. Now a lot of people tend to put it below the ankle bone, which is completely reasonable, of course, because when we look at those arthrokinematics, or the way that the joint moves with those accessory movements, that roll, slide and glide, attaching the band below the ankle bones is going to respect that natural motion as the tibia sort of translates over the foot. However, an interesting thing about this exercise is I like to have it above the ankle bone and then basically stretching out as far as you feel comfortable, because when we do the stretch, we're putting you in a position of restriction, and with the band tension, I find it actually helps to isolate a lot of where the majority of people's stiffness and tightness tends to be, more so than the other variations. So obviously you can choose, you can go between the two. So again, if you put it below the ankle, essentially onto the foot, you might find that you'd have to have your foot up onto a step to really help get that sort of posterior pull on the ankle, on the foot. But again, for the purposes of this one, I find above the ankle bone works best. And what we want to do with this exercise, and we've done this a little bit on the channel before, is you want to take a big step out so that the band's really tight. You want to take a big step past that. Now what a lot of people tend to do wrong with this exercise is most people's first instinct is to squat down on this. It's not a squat. You shouldn't be working too hard to hold this position. Essentially what it is you want to take your hips past your foot and ankle and then bend your knee and your ankle a little bit at the end to really try and find some deep tightness and restricted tissue at the back. It may not feel like a traditional muscle stretch. There will be muscles that do stretch during this exercise, but it will feel more of like a deeper pressure more than anything. And then what we want to see basically from front on is, again, imagine the band is behind me here, is we want to make sure that your feet are straight. We don't want feet turned out, because also what we want to do is when you're into the stretch, we don't want that knee to dump inwards, because a foot turning out or a knee that dumps inwards is your body's way of working around restriction. So if you find that you're doing this or someone's doing this in a way that is really in this shape more than a really square shape, then you might find you're just perpetuating the problem that you're trying to solve. So essentially how it looks. I want the band just above the ankle bones. Again, my preference. go out as far as you feel comfortable, hips past, drop down with your feet straight, knees out. Again, we don't want them to dump inwards, and we want to hold this position for anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple of minutes, depending on how much mobility you want to get from the exercise. Now, it's such an effective exercise that if you spent 10, 20, 30 seconds doing it, you should feel an immediate difference straight away. But obviously, the more that you do this stretch, the better it's going to feel. So again, 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on the person. Again, one of the things that I'd always recommend is do a test and a retest before and afterwards. And the best way to do that for me is just with a squat. So if you get to squat as deep as you can with your feet straight and knees out, get a sense of how it feels, how low you go, what your knees are doing, do the banded ankle stretch, then do your squat again, and you should automatically feel the difference in terms of your ankle mobility. So that's the banded ankle stretch. Again, I don't think I've ever puffed so hard doing an exercise before, but it's hard to talk and breathe at the same time. Easily one of the best ankle mobility exercises you'll ever see. There's a bunch of different variations, but that alone will really attack a lot of the common dysfunction that we tend to see clinically. So give us a go, let us know in the comments down below. Slap a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll see you in the next one.